Hi, I'm Tim Mills, and in this video I'm going to show how to use the eClass Sandbox to test out changes to a course website during the course. As instructors, we all want to have things lined up perfectly before the term starts, but if and when you find that changes need to be made during the term, it is possible. The process I outline in this video is one way to do that with minimal disruption to the student experience. This process uses the Sandbox, which is a very useful feature of the eClass system for instructors. However, this isn't a video about how to set up the Sandbox. For that, go to the knowledge base article that's linked in the video description. This video is specifically about using the Sandbox to test out changes to an eClass site during the course. Of course, if you're making changes after you create the eClass site, but before it's available to students, you can make all those changes in the main section of the course. You don't have to use the Sandbox. There's no real reason to. So why would we want to use the Sandbox? In general, you want to avoid making big changes at all mid-semester, but after the term starts, you may discover a way to improve things in small ways, and you may identify a change that won't disrupt students' learning and that you think is worth incorporating into your course midstream. You don't want to fiddle with the settings on the live eClass page sort of willy-nilly without knowing exactly what you're doing, because that could disrupt the student experience if someone's on the website and suddenly something changes. So you want to figure out exactly which change you'll make, then make it smoothly so you can minimize those disruptions. A corollary is that if you already know how to make the change and it's a simple, small one that you can do quickly, you should probably just do it in the live eClass site rather than using the Sandbox. One other point to note, you should be particularly careful about changing eClass objects that already contain student work, such as assignment and quiz objects. In this video, I'm not going to get into the delicate work of making sure those sorts of changes don't override or erase students' work. I'm going to assume the changes you want to make are on objects that are safe, such as course display settings or content objects. So how do we go about this? In live software situations in general, where the users have an ongoing live access to the software, the approach from development is to have a live version that the users are working on and have a testing version behind the scenes where you can try out changes before making them live. So I'm going to use that terminology of testing and live. In eClass, testing would be your Sandbox and live would be the course that students actively currently have access to. So what we're going to do is import a copy of your live class into the Sandbox, try out changes in the Sandbox, and then implement those changes in the live version. So first you want to identify the live course. So here's my eClass site, and here I'm going to use my Linguistics 102 section as the live course for an example. And let's say that I want to change how the topics are displayed and I don't know exactly which style I want. So the first step is to create a backup. The backup is what I'm going to be using in the Sandbox. So what I'm going to do through the Actions menu, this gear in the upper right, I'm going to select Backup, this icon here with a sort of page with a zipper on it. And that's going to bring me to a dialog that allows me to decide exactly what I want to back up. There's a lot of settings. There's several steps that you can go through. I like the default steps, so I'm just going to jump to the final step here and get on with it. This can take a few minutes, so we'll just wait. Okay, so that took about a minute to create the backup file. So we'll hit continue here. And now I'm going to navigate back to my dashboard to find my Sandbox. And scroll down a bit. Here's my Sandbox. And this contains the objects for the last course I was working on, Linguistics 101, you see. If you don't yet have a Sandbox, you can create one through the course request process, which you can access from the menu on the right of your eClass dashboard. So the process we're going through here is going to replace this Sandbox, all of its content with the other course that I'm working on. So if there's anything I want to save, now would be the time to make a backup of this as well. I'm not as interested in that. This is an old course that I'm done working on. But very quickly you do exactly what we did in the other course. Click on the gear icon, hit backup, go through the steps, and you'd create a backup file. So importing the course that we just saved that we want to work on, we go to the gear and we use restore, not import. Import is going to add objects from one course to what's already present. That's not what we want. We want to restore, we want to replace what's here with a restored version of the course we just backed up. And from the list here, if I had a file on my computer with the backed up course, I would upload it here. But when you back up a course on eClass, it creates an archive. And generally the most recent backup you made, I can see that this is Linguistics 102, Winter 21, Winter 21. So I'm going to hit restore there. That download button is if you want to create a local copy on your computer. So I'm going to hit restore there. Here we are. So that took about half a minute, maybe a bit less. So here we have a report of what's being imported. It gives general information on the version of Moodle. That's the underlying software for eClass. It's set to import all of the content in that backup file, and it has all sorts of information. These X's, it's not importing information about individual users, which is fine because we're not trying to work back and forth on student content, student generated content like assignments, forum posts, discussion forums, feedback forms, any of that. Okay, so we can scroll down. You can double check this if you want. I find that the defaults are generally fine. Everything that's getting restored is listed. At the bottom we have a continue button, so we'll just go to that. Next, we're going to be asked how we want to restore it. So we see we have options to restore into the course that we're currently in, which is the Sandbox we see at the top, or restore into some other existing course. So you've got a lot of options. We also have options to merge the backup course into this course. This would give a result with all the objects from the existing course plus all the objects from the restored course. That's not what I want. I want to delete the contents of this course and then restore into this course, the Sandbox. So I will select that option and hit continue. All right. So there are various pages confirming exactly what content and settings you want to import, and so we will step through those as quickly as we can. And slightly different information in each of these, but as I said, generally for my purposes, the defaults are what I want. If there are particular things you want to exclude from the import, this is where you could uncheck those. And then we get double checking. Here's all the information. It's a big course, so it's a lot of scrolling just to see what it says. Finally, we get to a point where we can hit perform restore. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to time this just to report how long this restore takes on my computer with my course. Your time may vary. Okay. So that took almost 2 minutes. At this stage, we have a new bunch of content in the Sandbox. So when I click through there, continue, I see the restored Sandbox. I see that it has my Linguistics 102 content, and I can go through and play with that all I want. So I could do the changes that I want. For example, maybe I want to investigate looking at different ways of displaying the topics. So it might actually be in the course settings here. Any kind of edit that you want to make, right? And I'm not going to go through how to do all different types of editing, but maybe I want to change, from collapsed topics into a, let's see, one topic format. Of course, I can look at the information here. The help information. That can give me some information, but maybe I actually want to see this. Save and return. See what it looks like with the different settings. Okay, I see a whole bunch of different settings here, and that is not looking quite like I would like it to. So I want to go back and change. I want to try out different things. And this is why I'm doing it in the Sandbox rather than live, because if it was flipping between different views live for the students, that could cause some confusion and some frustration. Whereas if I work out what I'm going to change, maybe even send a message to the students saying, hey, I'm going to make this change. This part is going to look a little different. I could take a screenshot of my Sandbox to show them how it's going to be different, where to find the things that they're used to finding somewhere else. Okay, once I get a setting that I'm happy with, I can repeat the steps that I got these changes. I can figure out, okay, I went into the settings, and somewhere in those settings, whatever setting I ended up with, I can just go into the live course, my Linguistics 102 Winter 21 course, and I can do that. I can change that setting directly. If it's a little bit more involved, there are ways to import content back and forth, but the main idea of this video is just to test out the changes, and if you're flailing about not exactly sure how you want to set it up, you can do that in the Sandbox without disrupting students' experience. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to come back to that. So my change was very simple. So just modifying that single setting, that's something you can go into the live course and do that same change there. With other things, there are ways to import an object. So you create or modify an object and import a single object into a course. You can look into how to do that using the import menu. This video is mainly about that backing up and some of the considerations around how to use it and how to use this to minimize disruption to students. And do remember that whenever you change anything that students may have seen on eClass already, it's prudent to communicate those changes. Say, hey, I'm about to change this, or hey, I just tweaked this a little bit. It'll look a little bit different, so that students aren't caught off guard when they go to look for something and they find it missing, or they see something new that wasn't there, or something that was there looks different. It can throw people off, right? And you want to minimize that. You want them to be able to focus on what they're learning. So communicate. And if with all of this work it's likely to take more than a couple of minutes to make the changes on your live course, another thing you can do is schedule the changes for low traffic times, nighttime, or the weekend, and perhaps communicate that scheduled change sometime in advance with a reminder on the day of the change, so that students can plan their work on your course around the change. They won't be fiddling with it just when it's going to be most in flux. You could suggest to students that they avoid logging in during your scheduled change time and whatnot. So these are some fairly low effort precautions that you can take as the instructor and as the maintainer of the course website that will avoid stress and extra work on students' part and on your part, when you can avoid getting a deluge of confused emails by communicating and planning this out well. So, and yeah, I know we want to have everything lined up perfectly before the term starts, but sometimes you do need to do these changes. So don't feel bad if you have to make these changes. Just do them carefully. I hope that this helps you in your quest to really improve the student experience and get through remote teaching as successfully as possible. Thanks for watching.